Hi guys, welcome back to the Astro Imaging Channel. Tonight's session, imaging rigs of the Winter Star Party. I want to say the World Star Party, don't know why. But Josh Smith is going to be presenting on that. But as always, before we go into that, I'm going to share my screen and show off our, and of course I eliminated that window. So you're going to get a sneak peek of one of his videos before I toggle back to the image of the week right there. Image of the week, I believe it's Milot 15 by Adam Landefeld. And of course, this is just that beautiful region within the Heart Nebula that basically I suggest everyone shoot every year because it's just that awesome of a region, and just try and keep on improving on it. Great image, Adam. Congrats on the image of the week. And as always, you can jump over to our website, click up here, click image of the week submission, and submit your images at the bottom of the page there. And we welcome all sorts of imaging submissions, and if you win, we show it off here and we post it on Google, and you get some recognition. That said, gonna try and find my right screen here. There we go. I'm gonna steal my screen back and basically hand it right over to Josh Smith.
Thanks, Adam. So tonight when we do this, Adam is essentially going to play the videos just because of a technical challenge. But he's going to play the videos, and we're just introducing a handful of different rigs. These were shown at the Star Party at the beginning of 2017. But a couple quick notes on that for people who aren't aware. The Winter Star Party is held on Summerlin Key, West Summerlin Key, or some of you know it as Scout Key. The Keys obviously got hit pretty hard by Irma, and right now we are not exactly sure what the situation is down there. The western bathhouse got hit pretty hard, as did the wheelhouse. The whole place actually just looks like a beach, so those of you who go there a lot know that there's kind of like grass and stuff, but down by the berm, you know, everything now looks like a beach. So there's updates both on Facebook and on cloudy nights that you can see, and they're kind of going to keep us posted on what's going on there. They may be looking for volunteers. Hopefully they will be. I know a lot of us have volunteered to help already, so keep your ears open, and if there's anything we can do, definitely. That's going to be a group that needs some help. I know a lot of people really enjoy going to that Star Party. There's satellite imagery available too if anybody wants to kind of see what happened there. But so their thoughts are with us, or the Girl Scout camp, and you'll get to kind of see what it looks like if you haven't been there yet. Definitely encourage going down there if anybody is looking for a fun Star Party. We're not sure if it's going to happen in 2018 or not, but hopefully it will. If not 2018, hopefully the next year. So without further ado, I think Adam's just going to start streaming some of these videos. We're going to start off with John Talbot, I believe, with a mobile imaging rig.
All right, here we go.
Hi, Optom Tractor. You all ready? Got your good side? Okay, you're on. Rolling? Yeah. Hi, this is Josh Smith from the Astro Imaging Channel. So we're still over here on this side of the Winter Star Party, and we're continuing with our little bit more mobile setups over here. We just did a Optom Tractor, and so now we're going to look at this. This is my friend John Talbot. Thanks for coming on. Yeah, good to see you. So what we're going to have you do is just kind of explain your whole rig from the top down, and then we'll ask you some questions.
Yeah, great. Well, this is an AstroTrack system built by a company over in England. This is their portable pier, their counterweight bar, and the actual tracker is this mechanism here, and it's very similar to like a barn door tracker. It tracks for about 2 hours, and you can put a little tiny telescope, like a 60 or 70 millimeter, on it. In this case, I've got my Canon 60DA, just a 200 millimeter lens, and we'll try to get some cool shots tonight with it. Very cool. It goes for, about 2 hours, and very lightweight. It fits in a little bag that I have around here. You can put it over your shoulder and take it wherever you want. It's great for hiking. If you wanted to go hike someplace, and all the stuff is within the actual bag. Everything you need is inside the pier.
Oh, so it just turns into a tube, basically.
Yeah,
it goes out on its own.
The legs come off. Everything goes inside the tube, and the tube goes in a padded bag, and off you go.
So my first question, looking at the rig, is what do you do about polar alignment?
So over here, there's a little arm that comes up, and you have a polar scope that you stick in this arm. I can move this out of the way a little bit like this. And the polar scope goes in there, and the wedge is actually pretty coolly designed. I mean, it's very, very smooth. You can adjust it in altitude and azimuth, and you know, I have several polar scopes that I use with it. They get you pretty darn close, but you know, if you're using like a small telescope, you know, it helps to drift the line a little bit if you're doing some long exposures.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other cool thing about this is you can actually guide. There's a guide report here at the back, and it'll actually guide in RA, so in right ascension. So once you get it pretty darn close, it makes things quite a bit easier to
So is that
long exposure.
That's an ST4 guide report there, or?
Yeah, I think it's proprietary actually.
Oh, okay.
It's got a proprietary pinout, but I've connected it to my Mac running the Sky with a small telescope and like my QSI camera on here, and I can guide through the sky with it, and seems to do pretty good. I mean, it's inherently very, very low periodic error. It's probably a 2-3 arc seconds of periodic error with these type of trackers.
So what is the biggest rig you put on here? You said a QSI and a little telescope?
A 70 millimeter refractor. Actually, I think I had an 80 millimeter refractor for Comet Lulin a couple years ago. I got some interesting shots of the comet with it. So yeah, it's great for about 3-minute exposures, and that's a nice little setup. Very lightweight.
Yeah, and 3 minutes when you're shooting with these little fast setups, that's probably all you need to actually get it. So how is this powered? Do you power a 12-volt line? Or?
It's got several power sources. Tonight I'm running it off a little power supply down there off of 120-volt main electricity, but I was running it off a little 12-volt, 12-amp-hour battery for the last 2 days until the battery quit on me.
So something like that is good for hiking, right?
Oh yeah, and it comes with a little battery pack. It'll run off, I think it's 4 AA's.
Okay.
And it'll run, the majority of the night on those 4 AA's.
Very cool.
So it's very low power and, a very lightweight, great little system to take with you wherever you go.
So I think maybe two or three more questions. One, what are you resetting on this whenever you have to reset it?
Yeah. So being like a barn door tracker, what this does when you turn it on, this arm comes out, and it comes out to set the tracker, and then you hit the button to start tracking, and it tracks for 2 hours. When it gets to the end, it actually hits the end and rewinds automatically.
Oh, very cool.
And it beeps and it tells you what it's doing. And it'll also run in several different modes, like solar, sidereal, lunar tracking modes. So it's got several different speeds to it.
So it basically resets itself whenever.
Absolutely, it resets itself, and then you just start it up again.
Very cool.
So you're limited to a couple hours worth of exposures.
Right. Right. So you see that coming up, just take a break, and then
yeah.
So what do you do with this about actually getting your target in the field of view?
So on the camera, or actually on this little plate, I have a finder scope.
Okay.
And just point and go. I mean, it's once you align it, it's pretty darn good. Plus, most DSLRs nowadays have live view.
Mm-hmm.
So you can, if you kind of see what the star pattern is, you can get it pretty close using live view or just looking through the viewfinder. But the finder scope really helps a lot.
Very nice, portable. But one other thing I see, how do you level this? What kind of system does it have?
So on the bottom, these legs have little screw feet on them, and they thread in and out. Each one is independent, so you can, and there's a little bubble level up on top of the pier. Actually, it's on the wedge, and you can level it very easily. It's once you got it, that doesn't move at all. I mean,
so when you're going out to image with this, what is the total time from the time you get there until you are ready to image?
I'd say probably, if it's dark enough for me to polar align, probably set up and start going maybe 15 to 20 minutes.
Not too bad.
Yeah.
Basically like setting up the camera and imaging.
Right.
Very cool.
So, it's a little more complicated with the telescope and a CCD on it or something.
Yeah.
But with a camera and a lens, and there's multiple options, ways that you can set this up. You can just put a ball head here instead of the counterweight bar, and put the camera on a ball head
Mm-hmm.
so you can rotate it and twist it any direction you want.
Okay.
But the counterweight bar I found to be quite a bit more stable, so that's why I use it. And it works great with a little telescope.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us about your camera.
So this camera is a Canon 60DA. It's the modified camera from Canon. So it's got a red enhanced filter in it,
Mhm.
but it takes wonderful daytime photos also. But it's about 20% or maybe 30% more efficient than just the regular camera with the standard filters. So it really makes the emission nebula pop
Mhm.
a lot more.
So now,
And-
does this have a corrected white balance for daytime then, or how does that work?
Well, it does. The white balance through the software they must have tweaked it for that.
Okay.
So it's almost like a daytime. I tried setting my own white balance, but I really don't see a whole lot of difference.
Yeah.
But the really interesting thing about this camera is the battery.
Mhm.
The battery on this thing will last all night long. I mean, I
Ooh.
swear, you can shoot for 6 hours straight before you drain this battery. They are so power efficient now.
That is a big difference.
Yeah, this and the new Canon 6D, the 6D
Yeah.
is another camera that is extremely low noise and very, very efficient with its power usage.
Mhm.
So yeah, I use one battery and I'm good for the whole night.
Perfect.
So yeah, it's a nice little setup. It's a smaller chip,
Yeah.
but it works very well with this 70 to 200 millimeter lens, and very little distortion in the corners and such. And I like it.
What is your typical f-stop on this lens, and how long a shot can you take before you start seeing tracking errors?
So in case you guys couldn't hear, Alex was asking what speed he shoots at with this, what f-stop, and how long of exposures he usually takes with the setup.
Yeah, so this camera lens is it's an f4 lens, and I typically stop it down a couple stops. It works very well at f5 and 5.6. And I normally, depending upon if I drift the line or not after I do the polar alignment, I can shoot very clean 3-minute images. I've gotten it up to 5 minutes unguided before with at shorter focal lengths. At 200 millimeters, 3 minutes is a good time to start with.
Yeah.
At 70 millimeters, I can probably go 5 minutes without any issue at all.
You get a pretty good image in a night that way.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, it works really good. It's a nice little portable setup.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So, Alex, do you have any more questions?
What might make you different if we were going to start over?
If I was going to start over, that's a really good question. There's some really good portable systems out there now from many companies. And, with this particular system, I probably wouldn't have changed a thing. I bought the Pier specifically to keep it as stable as possible, so I could put a little telescope on it. So I wouldn't have changed that at all. Yeah, I really probably wouldn't have changed this at all. If anything, maybe I would have experimented with different companies.
Right.
Tractor. I've got a little Vixen Polari,
Mm-hmm.
which works really well on a little tripod with just a camera and a lens.
Mm-hmm.
And we were shooting Ada Carina the other night when it was just above the horizon here, and at 200 millimeters, I was getting 3-minute exposures with that.
So if you guys don't know, we're at the Winter Star Party, and if Alex will turn around for a second, we're right down here, and if you actually come up on the berm here, you can see the horizon. So you can see down to, what is that, about minus 50 degrees in depth?
Probably pretty close. Yeah,
about
Ada Carina is about 7 degrees above the horizon.
Yeah.
Max. But the Southern Cross obviously comes up, and Omega Centauri is up around 17 degrees.
Yeah, that one's
really
actually pretty high, or even the Row region. That's practically in the middle of the sky here.
Yeah. It's like compared to folks that live further north, it's really hot.
Yeah, absolutely. So these are great, just to get going and kind of get set up and imaging in a hurry, and then down here somewhere where you want to actually carry it around to different sites. So we definitely appreciate you sharing the mobile rig. Do you have a website you want to share for people if they want to ask you questions or anything?
Yeah, people can email me at my website, which is starscapeimaging.com, and ASRO8042 @gmail.
Okay.
And I'll be happy to answer any questions they have.
Perfect. Well, thanks for coming on.
All right, Josh.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for
Yeah.
coming by.
Good seeing you.
All right.
Okay, and again, that was John Talbot. His website is posted on the group chat, the Astro Imaging channel, and it is starscapeimaging.com. He does a lot of really great work. He's got a lot of nice tutorials on there, and if you ever see him, he's a lot of times he's at Okie Tech Star Party, Winter Star Party, Chiefland a lot of times, so definitely a good guy to reach out to. I should also mention, Alex is not in the room tonight, but he would be sad if I didn't say that he was the videographer for us for this whole session and did a really great job. So send him a note if you think of it, and he'll be really happy to hear from you. I think the next guy that we're going to do is Paul May. Did a nice interview with a great backdrop for us with his Atlas.
All set?
Yep.
Hi, Josh Smith from the Astro Imaging channel here. This is another rig that we're doing, and I think this is the best view that we've run into over here at the Winter Star Party. This is quite a spot for imaging, so you can see the ocean right behind us. So we have another rig here with a different mount, finally. So can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your setup?
My name is Paul May. I'm from the Buffalo Astronomy Society. Out here with my buddy Mike Israel. This is my Atlas equatorial mount, and which I can't say enough good things about. This has done just a fine job of guiding with my astro images, and I've been able to take, let's say, H alpha, I've gone 12 minutes with no issues whatsoever. So wonderful guiding scope.
And so
It's easy to polar align too, I should.
Absolutely. What telescope are you using up here?
It's Teleview. It's the MP101.
Okay.
It's the old style version. It's not the IS version.
Okay.
I had a focuser, a 10-to-1 L, put a 10-to-1 focuser on here, and actually it only had one set screw when I bought it off Astromart. I had 2 more set screws put in
Okay.
to hold that camera, and filter wheel and wow.
Why did you find it necessary to add those other screws?
Oh, with just one set screw, I didn't think was enough to really hold the camera, filter wheel, and everything securely.
How did you go about getting those added?
Teleview actually drilled them out, and they took care of that when I sent it in to get the 10-to-1 focuser done. Yeah.
Very cool. That's good. That's cool. They took care of that for you. So working your way back, I see. Is there some sort of corrector you have here? Is
I do. Yeah, it's also a Teleview.
Okay.
Yeah, 0.8 focal reducer with my filter wheel. Zago. I'm not sure if I got the pronunciation right. A 5-piece 2-inch filter set. So right now I have the LRGB and an H alpha filter in there.
Fantastic. And
the camera is an Attic 383L.
Okay.
Love this camera. It was many folks have spoke very highly of it. A very good friend of mine who we imaged with at Cherry Springs up in Pennsylvania highly recommended this, and I've been very happy with it.
That's great. I'm glad you had good experience with that. We've definitely heard good things too. And looks like we have a guiding rig up here.
Yep.
What is the guiding rig we have up on top?
50mm Orion guide scope, and then the Starshoot auto guider inside, and that's given me very good results. I used to have a bigger, I used to have the short tube 80 up here, bigger range set, and to guide better, I just got it down further to the center of gravity and kind of shortened up so it's not, not top heavy.
Maybe a little bit less fletcher as well.
True. Yeah, and it does a good job.
So you want to talk a little bit about what cables you have going on here?
Sure. So I just started. I've used a hand controller to move the mount around up until a short while ago. I've gone with EQ mod, and it's wonderful. So now I'm not doing with the hand controller. I would do the 3-star alignment. With EQ mod. I mean, it polar aligns really well as long as I do a good job of polar aligning, and I can do that within 5 minutes or so, maybe 10 minutes.
Now, do you use the EQ mod polar alignment routine to do that?
I don't.
You don't?
No.
Okay.
I have to admit, I have to look into that.
So built into EQ mod, there's a polar alignment routine where it'll actually send your scope right to where it needs to be. You set your home position, and then it'll send it to where it needs to be for you to put Polaris right in the center of it. Yeah.
Program than I knew.
About 2 minutes. Yeah, it's awesome. So you learn something new. That's
Yeah.
something to look into and
Every
try.
day I learn something new from you guys.
So it's a very cool thing. So one thing I see on here that is not something you see on all these Atlas mounts is it looks like, is that a threaded screw on there?
It's just a push.
Oh, just a push one. Okay, yeah. So some of the Atlas ones actually you can get a little modified threaded part on there because that's one of the things these pull out. I probably own 5 Atlases in my life. So.
Okay, you know.
Yes.
I would rather have it threaded on actually because every once in a while I have to be careful what's hanging under here because if one of the wires hits the power cable, it'll knock it off.
Yep.
There's nothing more frustrating than having an imaging run and losing your power.
I think everyone that's owned an Atlas knows all about that.
Yeah.
So I see that we coming down from here and coming over here. This looks like this is probably your workstation over here.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're using my favorite. This is what I've used for a long time. A little tub. It's good at blocking the light, keeping the dew off, and just blocks out pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Yep, and then whenever you're carrying stuff back and forth, it's good storage too, right?
Yes, very, very true.
So what do you use to actually run your gear as far as software goes?
So let's see. I use APT, astrophotography tool.
Okay.
And I've been really happy with that. Mike turned me on to that. Super happy with the program. I've got the latest updates. What else? Starshoot Auto Guider. I have my guiding software PhD. I've got astrophotography tools up now. I was just doing some flats from last night. Got tired around 3 and figured, enough's enough. I'm not going to touch the focuser. I'll come back today and do that.
Beautiful.
These guys interrupted you. No, I'm good. And then the Sky 6 is what I use for my planetary software. And I've been super happy with that too. So there are a lot of bugs. I got a new computer with Windows 10 and it was some trials to work through to get all my programs up and running on it. But generally things have gone pretty well. It's a little bit of a hustle to get it all up and running by the Star Party.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah, we've all experienced having to clean Windows 10 off, so very cool.
And the powered hub, I wasn't able to connect the filter wheel and my planetary software, be it Starry Night or the Sky 6, without that powered hub. So that's worked out well.
Great. So what are your aspirations with your rig now? Is there stuff you want to do to improve it? You gonna have any modifications coming up in the future?
Always. Well, first is what you just mentioned a little while ago, and that would be the polar aligning with EQ mod. I will definitely look into that and start doing that. Besides that, always. Whenever I listen to other people, what they've got going on and their suggestions, and try to take whatever makes sense for my application or my growth going forward. Mm-hmm. How I'll evolve.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a junkie like the rest of us. Can't get enough of the hobby.
Yeah. As soon as you get something working, sometimes it gets you excited to move on to something else, right?
Yeah.
What is your rig particularly good at taking pictures
of? So more wide field. I can't get the galaxies unless they're quite big with the focal length that I have.
What is that focal length?
So the native focal length without the reducer is 540. With it is 430. So I've got to look open clusters maybe that have a decent size to them. What else? The big galaxies, Andromeda, M33, nebulas. Tonight I'm going to continue imaging what I did last night. And that's the cone Christmas tree area that fits very, very nicely. There's a
little fox fur in there.
Yeah, there's a nice NGC off to the side, 2 yellow stars framed at the bottom. And then I'll go to the Virgo Star Galaxy cluster after that. I got that framed pretty nicely with some help from the guys last
to shoot about 350,000 galaxies in there.
It's amazing.
It's a very cool field.
It really is,
Yeah, so that's why I've done a couple of orange scopes. I like them. They're cool because they're long enough focal length. You can get a lot of stuff in them, but wide enough you can also fit most targets.
You've got a nice variety, and this is great for visually observing too. Yeah. Mike asked me a little while ago, have you done visual lately? And I haven't. I wish I would have. Monday night we had some high clouds as last night too, so that would have been kind of a blast going to some of these objects, the jewel box and all of these cool.
Especially right here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right up front and center.
Absolutely. Very cool.
So it's been fun.
Very cool. Alex, do you have any other questions? All right. Well, we really want to thank you for chatting on here.
I have to sign up. I'm there all the time. I'm always checking the equipment. But Astrobet. Yeah.
What's your username on AstroBet?
Just type in Google and Palme Astrobet, and you'll get right to my site.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Fantastic. Yeah. Thanks again. Appreciate it,
gentlemen.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Adam.
No
Okay,
problem.
so the next one, I believe, is actually going to be my old rig, and this one we have a special guest interviewer.
Okay, this is Craig Smith, temporary reporter for the Astro Imaging channel. Just finished being on the other side of the hot seat, so now I can put my son on there. So, Josh, why don't you tell us about your setup?
Okay. So I use a 365 cover. I live down in Florida now, so I keep my setup outside most of the time. So this has been outside in Pittsburgh probably for about a year, and then now outside in Florida for almost 2 years. And it actually does great. I mean, it's a little bit dirty, but I've never had any issues with my gear, and it's outside, not covered pretty much all the time. So, you know, a lot of people ask, you know, do you need an observatory or what do you need? And, you know, my answer is during the summer, I maybe don't leave it out in Florida, but the rest of the year I do. It gets through rainstorms fine, gets through wind fine. And basically it just makes me image a lot more, allows me to image a lot more. So I just keep this on, I throw it on and throw it on at the end of the night in the morning. And then whenever I'm you know, getting ready to image, I take it off maybe 20 minutes or half an hour before I image, and then I get rolling. So can you hold this for 1 second? You bet.
Well, Josh, I have to say that setup is a sweet-looking setup, although it looks somewhat familiar. I guess I can say anything I want while you don't have the microphone.
So yeah, maybe not a ton of variety in this tent. And kind of like the old video, the Tech 140 that you just saw was my old telescope, and I tried to buy it back a couple of times, but it wasn't happening. And I wanted another one, so I got myself another one after trying some shorter focal length setups. But from the top down, you'll see I have Tech 140. I have QSI 690. In this case, I actually use the field flattener instead of the reducer from astrophysics. I like to use the field flattener because I try to shoot a lot of really tiny targets. I like to get as much resolution as possible. Down here, our seeing is often very good. We have that laminar flow, so I can get some pretty good resolution a lot of the time. My Tech 140 is sitting on top of a Mach 1 here. I just have the regular saddle for the Mach 1. Moving over, you can see I skipped this. I have the Feather Touch Posi drive for mine as well. This is a Feather Touch 3545 focuser. Big, robust, and very repeatable, so it just works pretty much every time for us. I also try to keep my setup pretty clean, so you can see I only have a couple of cables coming through the mount here. That's one of the things I really like about the Mach 1 is through the mount cabling. We don't have to worry much about cable snagging, so I'll show you where those cables go in a little bit. But working our way down, I have the Mach 1 sitting on the Eagle pier, and on the Eagle pier, I actually got the extension pier. I recently started using this because the scope is a little bit of a longer scope. And you can see the legs down here. I need to create a little bit more room, which is also why I put this leg in the back here. So it's actually still very stable setup. You know, it looks like it might be a little bit top heavy, but you can get a nice wide base with the feet on the Eagle pier whenever you're setting it up. It's pretty easy to get it level. There's a level built in and a compass built into the mount. I won't usually put my gear on here before I get it level. I might put the counterweight shaft on just to weigh it down a little bit. But the legs have a couple nice little marks on them to actually give you a point of reference for getting them level. One thing that I do like about this is when you travel with it, it collapses down pretty small. It is kind of a lot of work to get it to collapse down. You have to take all these screws out. slide the pier down, and then put the screws back in so that they don't get lost. They offer an extended case where you don't have to do that, but then, you know, it's not quite as portable because you need a little bit bigger case in it. But overall, definitely very happy with the Mark 1. You can see I still use the CP3. Consider probably going up to the CP4 at some point, but right now I'm happy with the CP3. My setup's been very stable. It seems like it runs reliably all the time. I don't really lose any images due to, to guiding issues or to software issues anymore. So I've just kind of kept that going. And then coming down to the ground, you can see over here, I have a little infrared camera on the ground. I just use this. So when I'm not in the tent or I'm at home, I just basically put it down behind the scope. I like to still watch it. I haven't run into issues where it runs into the pier much, but I like to know where it's going, especially the first couple times I'm running it when I set it back up. That camera is great because it's just very robust outdoor camera. I can step on it, kick it, rain. No snow down here, but whatever, it just survives. It's pretty easy to set it up so you can see right here. I know sometimes people worry a little bit about the infrared coming into their camera, and I've heard some people actually say that they see that. I have not seen any evidence of it at all. In my case, maybe it's the positioning being low on the ground, not bouncing off any like observatory walls or ceilings up high. So it's just been a non-issue for me. So just another kind of nice little touch. So you can see I have 3 cables coming through the mount. One of those is that infrared camera. The reason that I have that running up through here is because I use a little stick computer on top of my mount. So all the data goes up on top of the mount. I'm not running it somewhere else to another computer. So I run the camera cable, the infrared camera cable through the mount. I run one power line through the mount, and I run this. The only reason I need to run this is my serial cable, and this comes from right here on the CP3 box. I wouldn't necessarily have to do that, but I like to keep it clean. So these are the 3 that run through the mount up here, up top. You can see it's a little bit of a rat's nest. Unfortunately, some of the cables that I have to use, they don't sell in shorter lengths, and you can't really make them very well. So the M3 Intel computer we talked about before, and so I won't go into too much more detail. That's powered by a USB-C hub. So I needed a USB-C to USB-A converter. I couldn't find one in a short enough length, so that had to be coiled up. The other thing I use here is with the Feather Touch Posi drive, you have this, I guess it's an Optec controller is what comes with it. And so you get a long serial cable with that, a long serial to USB converter. So unless you have them custom make one for you, it's a little bit of more work to actually get going. So I just kept that one. I coiled these 2 up here. I have them pretty nicely secured so they're not going to run into anything or sag on anything. Coming off of here, I have a dew strip up here on the front, and I keep one back here on the field flattener. I usually run those kind of at low to medium power. If it's going to be really wet out, I'll turn them up just a little bit. Continuing down, I actually have the Kendrick USB 3 hub here. It's got, what is it, 7 positions on it. This is one that I don't see quite as much being used. It's a little bit expensive. I want to say maybe it was $150 or $200. But I've been happy with it. I got it because I was hoping to be doing some work with some cameras that require USB 3. The other thing that's nice about it is that it has an internal heater. I've never run into an issue with my USB hubs, but apparently it's very good for keeping the dew off. So it has a little internal heater. Up here, I have a USB to serial converter. This is for the mount itself because I'm using CP3 with the Mach 1. There's only an option to go from USB to serial converter. Last thing up here, I just use these little the power pole distribution board. I think a lot of people maybe use ones with separate fuses on them. I used to do that. I went away from it. I don't even remember why I went away from it, but I haven't had any issues, so I just kind of stuck with it. So I have pretty much everything that I need up here on top.
Moving on to part 2.
So you can see I have this all mounted on a single plate. And that plate is actually bolted to 2 little mini ADM saddles here with a Vixen rail. So that Vixen rail I keep up there basically is a handle, something to attach to. The reason I have these on saddles, it's easy just to pull the whole thing off. I just loosen them up, the whole thing will slide off. So if I'm traveling, I don't want I don't want to have to take everything down and apart, then I can just slide the whole thing off. Honestly, I've got to the point now, though, where I pretty much just leave this whole thing set up. Anytime I go anywhere, I put it in a little bit larger case than the one that it came with. And that way it's just set up and ready to go. When I get to wherever I'm going, I just have to get these 3 cables that are already ran through the mount and plug them in. Underneath these bags here, I have a PowerWorks power supply. It's a 12-volt power supply. And I also have a trip light UPS, and kind of the same deal. You come to enough star parties, you're going to get occasional brownout or occasional little pop in power because somebody actually unplugged the line or too much stuff was going through the lines at once. And so, you know, it's good to have that, because if you go out of power for about like 30 seconds or something, then you're going to be fine. It's going to recover on its own, and your rig's going to keep running. So I think that pretty much covers everything that I have on the rig. Not too dissimilar from the one that you had over there, Dad, but any other questions about it?
I was just curious. I know a lot of people are going with the stick computers. I went a little different route. What's been your experience with that? Have you enjoyed it? Is there any hiccups with that, or has it just worked really well for you?
So the only hiccups were in the very beginning, and that was getting it set up. And I'll give you one other example of a hiccup, but the 2 were in the beginning, is getting the M3 cleaned off and getting all the stuff that we did not need on it cleaned off. You know, it has a bunch of junkware. And then one of the big ones that I always tell people, if they get any of these stick computers, I think they have a remote iDevice keyboard, which is like a Bluetooth thing. And so you can use your iPhone or your iPad as a keyboard. Sounds like it's really great, but in theory, but in practice, it actually really bogged down the computer. It was causing a lot of crashes. One of the other things with Windows 10 was making sure that your updates are turned off. So people talk about different ways to turn the updates off. I just go into the services and disable that service. I had issues getting it to actually stop updating pretty much every other way that I did it. So, it's like probably the first week or so to decide that's how to do that. So that way it doesn't reboot in the middle of the night. So I turned that off. The other thing with this is you have to be prepared to set it up the first time. So there's an HDMI output on it. You need the way to get that HDMI output into a screen. So I had to get a little adapter, female to male HDMI port, so I could get it into a screen. The other thing is you only have one USB port on this, so you need a good sized hub to accept all your other USB devices. So when I set it up the first time, I actually got a little USB keyboard. I had to use a Bluetooth mouse to make sure that I could actually control it to get it set up. Since then, I control it through TeamViewer, either over LAN or most of the time I just use either Wi-Fi at home or a hotspot. If I'm using an iPad or an iPhone, I use a hotspot. If I'm setting up a sequence, I have my laptop inside in my office, so I'll actually go into that laptop to set up the sequence. But most nights it's ready to go, so I just, as soon as the computer turns on, it signs into TeamViewer, I open it up on my iPad, fire up SGP, hit play, and the whole thing will just start running. But yeah, so the hiccup sometimes at star parties like this is it doesn't always find your hotspot immediately. So sometimes you have to reset your hotspot. I usually don't have to do anything with the computer, but once in a while, if I turn it off for the day, I need to go back in. My hotspot right now is on my iPad mini, so that way I still have my phone and it's not chewing up power and data on my phone. So I just have to turn that off and turn it back on a lot of times. But other than that, I'm really happy. I like having something so small up here. If I want to work with it, it's easy just to grab it off there and bring it inside and work with it. It's plenty powerful. Definitely not run into any issues with power on it.
So maybe anyone who's considering this, maybe would you want to tell them what you typically run on that?
Yeah. So I use SGP. I use PhD2, and I have the astrophysics driver for this. I have installed CBC on here, Card to Seal, but I don't really use that very much. So I don't actually have a lot running on here. Most of the time, like I said, I try and keep it pretty lightweight.
You have a local failover plate solver?
Yeah, so in SGP I do. I use plate solve 2, which is amazing. It's incredibly fast. I pretty much can't even see it solve. It's so fast. As long as it's within 1 or 2 search regions. If it's longer, then I see it actually go through. But if it does fail, I've installed the entire astrometry index on here, but I didn't put it on the computer's hard drive. I put it on the well, it's an internal slot, but a micro SD card. So I have a 128 gigabyte micro SD slot on there, and it has all of my raw data that I capture on there. It also has my astrometry indexes on it. And I think that's pretty much it. I try not to put too much else on this and just keep it lightweight, like I said, for this. Otherwise, yeah, it's been very nice. It's been a nice move for me. I don't have to keep a laptop. I mean, it basically removed the whole table outside. I don't have a table for a laptop. I'm not tripping over cords anymore. When I'm at home, I just have this all set up, and I have a little shelf on this on the pier. And so literally the pier is just sitting there on its own. All I have running up to it is a power cable. So it's been really nice at cleaning things up. And it's silly, but I like going out to dinner, and like kind of in the middle of dinner, I can just check in on my laptop or on my iPhone and make sure the rig's running. Or if I'm out and have some kind of event, you know, I can literally sign in from my phone and just hit play. I can watch it start up through my little camera there. And so it just made the whole process really easy. And, you know, there was a time when I really enjoyed tinkering a lot and finding ways to make less expensive gear work. But now I enjoy finding ways to make kind of a little bit nicer gear just work for me. You know, there's really no work involved anymore in actually acquiring data, other than creativity and framing and getting enough frames.
Amen to that. It makes it a different hobby, I guess.
It does.
We both went through that series of steps, I think, with paid our dues with Atlas mounts and so on. So I guess as official guest interviewer, the obligatory question is, what made you smack your head and say, well, I wish I would have done that differently, if anything?
So I won't maybe necessarily name every product that I use, but like I said, I did try to use a lot of different rigs for a while. I was really into wide field imaging for a while. And I will actually say, to be honest, there was an explosion in wide field imaging with scopes. Like I had an FSQ85 and a QSI 683. And I like doing stuff that's a little bit more, I guess, a little bit maybe more creative or individual that not a lot of people are taking. And so there's two parts to it. One is I wanted a little longer focal length, especially now that I'm down in Florida. I have steadier size, so I can shoot more small targets and I can get good results. The other big thing is that just repeatability and reliability. I've tried using, I tried making dual rigs where I had two Star 71s sitting on top of an Atlas. And I've tried using some other mounts from other high-end manufacturers that I struggled with getting working, whether it was software or the hardware on them, or maybe they weren't quite living up to what they said they could do. And for anyone who ever owns an astrophysics mount, including you, I heard just get a Mach 1 or something, and it'll just work and you'll forget about it. So I fought it a long time. And eventually I got it, and I've just been thrilled. I mean, I literally was imaging the first night with it that I got it. That was a year ago because it was at the start party. I didn't even test it out. First night I was running and everything was clean and smooth. FSQ85 even took quite a bit of work to get going. This guy really, the Tech 140, I mean, it's at F7 for me, so it's slow, it's forgiving, it's just very, very reliable and repeatable. And that's what I enjoy in imaging now. So, enough failed rigs where I've spent a lot of money and a lot of time, lost a lot of nights trying to experiment, and I just decided, well, I like processing the data, I like exploring new targets, and that's the part that I want to kind of explore. I work on my own gear, and I run my own side business company, so I make a lot of other kind of custom things, but that takes enough time. But I like getting data, and I like processing it and presenting different things. So I went for reliability, period. I didn't care that my rig was a little slower because I get a lot of clear nights down here.
So everyone would, like a bigger telescope and all that sort of thing. We talked about that before. Anything in your setup now you wish you could have changed or would do differently with what you have today, or pretty much you're happy with where you're at?
Really, I am really happy. I get really kind of crisp images. The one kind of lingering question that I have that we're probably going to iron out in the next couple of months is the Tech 140 is actually not the best color corrected scope there is on the market. It definitely shows a little bit of bloat in the blue channels. It's not corrected all the way down to 400 nanometers perfectly. So when you're imaging in Lume or you're imaging in the blue channel without the field flattener, you will get some bloat on there. So yeah, especially with these Sony chips, because they're very sensitive in the blue. And then take it a step further and you've got those tiny pixels on the 690, which are 3.69 microns. can get a little bit of load. So, you know, the way to solve that, thanks to Peter and Reno on Cloudy Night, suggested an article that I read that kind of did some research showing that the Tech 140 field finder actually helps correct the field a little bit in that boot channel. And so I tested it out as soon as I got this rig, and sure enough, it made a big difference. But the lingering question is, maybe the APTCC actually corrects a little bit better. If it corrects a little bit better, and I reduce the scope a little bit, so I'm not shooting at quite a high resolution, I'm still curious to find out if I'm going to have the same, basically, output, same half-flux radius on my stars if I'm using a reducer compared to this. Because sure enough, I'd rather be shooting at f5 with this setup to get the same resolution as I am right now. So, you know, that's a question that's lingering. It's a $3,000 question that's lingering. So I'm not in a super big rush to find out, because my images are coming in pretty well and everything's reliable. But you know, fortunately, we have similar setups, so we're going to experiment a little bit. We've done some side-by-side shooting, and we'll continue to do that at Star Parties. So really, same camera, same telescope, mounts a little bit different, but probably not so different that we can't get something useful out of it. So that's the lingering question to me. If I go with this reduce with that AP reducer, am I going to get the same resolution and just faster? So I still like to find that out, and that's a little bit cheaper than, you know, spending a ton of money. My belief is that big scopes with big pixels are always going to be faster and give you a little bit better data. But I also will argue with my pictures, I'm getting the resolution that most people are. My stars might not be quite as tiny, but you look at a lot of those details and the dust lanes and stuff. You know, definitely seeing limited, and down here the seam's not bad. So I'm getting a lot of high resolution stuff with it.
Okay, great, Josh. That's all I have. Any closing comments from either of you guys? Or?
No, well, we're going to do a couple more interviews, and we'll try and get a little more variety in our rigs here. I know inside this tent is a huge variety, but hopefully you guys enjoyed at least seeing kind of a little dual Tech 140 setup inside our skybox. We travel around to Okie Techs with this. I think he goes to Texas sometimes. We go to Almost Heaven Star Party, Chiefland, and yeah. So yeah, you get little cut pieces. Our buddy out there, John Love, actually sells little kits of the connectors. We'll sell you the tarps and the guy ropes, and kind of puts it together in one really nice package for you. And you just buy the EMT. He'll send it to you, but it doesn't make sense to. So I mean, he doesn't really make any money on it. So he does a good job of putting it together. And these things are pretty quick to set up. We have a time lapse of me setting it up that we'll actually include in the presentation the night that we do this. And you can see I set up this whole double box pretty much by myself in, what was about an hour or so, as the sun was going down. So when you're using it for a full week and everyone else is worried that their scope is blowing out into the ocean and the Gulf, we were sitting up there knowing that everything was fine. So I am a big proponent of using stuff like this, but make sure that you use the right stuff. Don't use like plastic PVC with a couple of little stakes on it, because wind's powerful and it'll blow things away. So,
well, and the other beautiful part of this is if anything does happen to it, it's all off-the-shelf stuff you can buy in these art. You can buy new EMP connections. You can buy all that stuff.
Yep, it's definitely as you go to more and more star parties and events and get more of these under your belt, you learn. And we've definitely evolved a lot since we started going to these together, and things have become more and more relaxing and more reliable. So that's the name of the game for us.
Right. I guess I forgot to ask you, do you want to share any contact information for any questions?
Yeah. Well, obviously I'm on the Astro Imaging channel, so you can reach me there and ask any questions there. You can also reach me at my website at catchingthecosmos.com. And just a quick plug for that, I do custom 3D printed parts. I do bat and off mass, full master adapters like right there, rings, dovetails. If you have any projects you need to work on, I help out with that. Adapters for your flat panels, and then also backlit LED pictures that I partnered together with Greg at Watcher Ed Observatory to create those. So,
which a biased opinion it is, but they are awesome.
They cover my office and my home, so they are a lot of fun. He does really nice work and put a nice image on there, and you will not be disappointed on that. So, yeah, I think that's all I have for this. And like I said, we'll try and get you guys a little more variety on setups, but hopefully this was kind of a cool little setup for you to see in here too.
All right, thanks, Josh.
Yep, thank you. Thanks, Alex.
Awesome. So now we're moving on to Craig Smith, correct, Josh?
Sure, yeah, we can do that.
Hi, this is Josh Smith from the Astro Imaging channel. We just finished up the first interview of the night, but we're going to go on and do the second interview of the day. This one is a special guest because it is my dad, Craig Smith. We are over in our corner of the Winter Star Party at Scout Key, and this is our house for the week. We stay in the R-Pod trailer. It's definitely been a huge improvement for our star parties. Very comfortable. We had some really nasty rain this week, probably 30 or 40 mile an hour winds, took out some telescopes and tents. We were ankle deep in water in a lot of the site, but it was pretty nice inside the tent, or inside the trailer, because we were not inside of a tent. The other thing that stood up well to this whole big storm was our skybox. If anybody's an imager out west, goes to Okie Tex or the Texas Star Party, something like that, you probably recognize the skybox by John Love. This thing's been through, I want to say, maybe 7, 8, 9, 10 star parties, something like that now. So it's great for deflecting wind. It's great for keeping light in. It gives you a little bit of shelter and a little bit of privacy. But we're going to go inside and we're going to interview my dad about his setup. My dad is Craig Smith, and we'll come on in here. We share this skybox, and we both image inside of here. So maybe we'll just do a little double setup sharing on this one. So, hi, Dad. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. So we're
Come around this way.
yeah, we're coming in to talk to you about your setup. So why don't you just start from the top, and you kind of let us know what your setup is, why you have everything, and then we'll ask you some questions.
All right, well, this is the aluminum, the cheap version. I can get it off one hand to do it.
How come you use that version instead of the other version that we have
The
over
reason
here?
is because I don't leave my stuff out all that often, just with star parties. So I would would take quite a while to get a 365 cover out for 365 days. So
Fair enough.
if I got another one, I probably would get another one, but this is the one I have to start with. So I have, I don't know, start from the top down if you want. I have a Tech 140 with a black blue shield on it. Very stylish. I have some of my electronics on the top of my setup. I have a dew heater, a hub, a focusing hub, and a power distribution panel. I do have a dew heater up on this part because it's been a little bit damp some nights. I'm using through the mount wiring on my setup right now. I have 3 wires going through. I have a power wire. I have a USB connector to the hub, and then I have a separate line to the camera that actually goes down through the mount. I probably am going to do away with that shortly, but that's the way it's set up right this minute. Tech 140. Coming back this way, I have the astrophysics. I never remember the name. TCC reducer flattener, and my camera that I've only just started using. This is the first outing with it, is a QSI 690. I had a STT 8300 for a couple of seasons, and just switched over to that. So I like that one. Changed to this one for a little bit more resolution, maybe. Have about the same imaging scale with this camera and the reducer as I did with the 8300, and just straight made it S7. So that's the mounts on 1100, AP 1100. I've had it about. I got first outing was 2 years ago at the Winter Star Party. I have mine set up with the GT OCP4. Which has a lot of different fancy things. I still use it with the serial connection rather than a Wi-Fi or anything. This is my remote computer here. It's actually set up. It's not quite as small as a stick computer. It has a little more guts in it. I think it's I know it has 8 gigabytes of RAM, and I think a 256 gigabyte hard drive, I think, if I remember, or maybe it's 512, I can't remember which. Lots of serial ports, lots of ports on it. So it's a little bit more beefy than some of the stick. my, my I have a little bit beefier computer than some of the stick computers. It's still portable. It's still a headless unit. But as a result, I write it down here on this end of the mountain instead of on top like some people do. Just a power supply, power distribution panel, and another USB hub down here that I plug in my flat panel and stuff like that. And then down on the bottom, I have a AAA power supply that works pretty well. Not power supply, sorry, UPS. Just in case somebody accidentally pulls the cord or something like that. Another thing we missed just on this side, I have used a Feather Touch Posi drive to run for focusing on this. It's a pretty robust focuser, pretty good at being repeatable. I guess that's the highlights of my setup. I do also have a field flattener that goes with the Tech 140, so I can shoot native too. Right now, I've kind of just been using the reducer because it's such a sweet spot. I think just about f5 and 1 arc second per pixel with the Tech 140, so that's a nice spot to be in, I think.
So I'll get into asking some questions since we went over most of it. A lot of times people always wonder between these flatteners and the camera, do you know what adapter you got for this or how you had to get the reducer set up?
Nope. I mean, I know what I couldn't tell you the exact model number, but these are off-the-shelf items in this particular case because AP is friendly, if you like to call it that, to QSI cameras. So they had an adapter off the shelf. I didn't have to have anything made for this particular one. So I do know it has the bigger bore faceplate on the QSI, the 2.156 faceplate to match up with their adapter. And this adapter right here is a specific one out of their catalog for this setup. This other one here is a one that comes with the reducer in the first place.
So it sounds like maybe if you call George at Astrophysics or something, he would know what.
If you have a QSI, I think you can picture that. They sell you this thing too, which is a 3-point compression ring that screws on the back of the focuser.
Is that another opportunity for rotation? Is that what that is for?
That's just the way they connect it rather than directly threaded. So
okay.
I can rotate it here with the Tech 140. Here's a rotation, and you could certainly rotate it there too. There's no reason you couldn't.
So lots of opportunities to change your rotation if you want.
Indeed. Yeah.
So you changed to the CP4. This is something that is still pretty new. Can you explain why you changed to this and if you are happy with your change?
Well, to be perfectly honest, I have not probably gotten a lot of value out of it yet beyond what the three would do for me. I did experiment with the Wi-Fi a little bit. It can act as a hub, which I was interested in, but it's kind of a low power hub, and it's a little bit hard to use for that purpose. So, but I'd still have a serial port, and I happen to have a serial port on this little computer, but you can directly use a USB port now, which you couldn't have done with the CP3. You'd have to have an external converter to use that, so that part is nice. The other thing they've done is they have a more robust power converter, so I mean, I always think that's good. Cables always seem to be where things go wrong. And then they directly supply something that plugs into power poles, which I like to use. So
no splicing your own cable.
No, I could just use an off-the-shelf cable from them now. So I thought that was I liked all that about it. Haven't really taken advantage, but I think they're going to start, doing all the updates just online and stuff, and you'll need, if you want to take advantage of that, you'll need to have that at that point. So I went ahead and jumped at when I had a chance.
So I saw something, if you come around this way, on the front of your mount that we didn't talk about, right underneath your saddle. Can you talk a little bit about what that is and what you're doing with that?
This is one of the Pole Masters. It's another, honestly, for me, it's kind of a toy. I have both the Rapus and this. The Rapus works great. I was interested in this and trying it out and seeing what I thought of it. It works pretty well too, I think. I don't know that there's value for me personally in having both of them, but it does seem to work pretty well. So that's what it is, and especially on this setup, you can see it's pretty out of the way and unobtrusive. When I pack my scope up, this plate and this top piece all come off as one unit and go into a box, and I have an opening underneath, and the camera drops right down in it, so I never take it on or off or anything. It just all stays together like that.
Very nice. Very nice. So you said you're shooting at about 1 second a pixel with a
Almost exactly, maybe 1.01 or something.
with almost a degree field of view, I believe it is.
I think about, yeah, maybe 1 degree in the wide direction.
So what kind of images do you like shooting with this setup?
Well, I'm always a big fan of galaxies. That's my favorite thing, but sometimes it's nice to shoot a little bit more in depth. So, you know, it's a good setup for shooting, I don't know, like one of my projects I'm working on is the, not this weekend, but I have more recently is the Sol Nebula, but not the whole thing, kind of the area under the chin where there's a nice lot of stuff going on. And so with this setup and a little bit higher resolution, maybe you get a different look on some targets than you would otherwise with a maybe a little bit broader field. So I like that, but when it's galaxy season, you know, I'm always liking that. That's probably my favorite thing when it's available. You know?
So a lot of people who like galaxies will often shoot with a pretty large RC scope, or maybe the nicer ones will shoot with an IDK. Why do you choose to use a refractor instead of something like a little longer focal length?
Well, I just think, first of all, bang for the buck. I mean, the refractors are about as good as it gets. They're well made. They have, you know, they're very sharp and clear and crisp. But I think really the bottom line is money. You know, if you want to shoot with a 10 or 12.5 inch, I don't know, Dalkirkham or something like that, and then in order to match that up, you have to get a camera with some kind of bigger pixels. I mean, we're talking maybe $25,000 or something, I think, to get into a setup like that. And, you know, my scope is, you know, it's 5, and maybe I have 8 or 9 with the scope and the camera or something. So it's substantial different dollars. If you had the other setup you mentioned, you could certainly, I believe, get stuff a lot faster. I don't know that but I think that with this setup, you can come awfully close to seeing limited if you have the patience and time to do it.
So just a matter of collecting more data.
I think it takes longer. I think if you have a bigger lens, you can a bigger piece of glass, you can get it sooner, quicker, and you know you're less at the whims of the weather, trying to get a clear night to get it, and so on, or trying to get more targets during a star party. But and the other part of it is, you know, you're lugging around something that weighs considerably more. I don't especially like that. This is nice, easily portable. I don't know what a 12.5 inch Dalkirkham would weigh, for example, probably 50 pounds or upwards of that. Slinging it up on top of there is, you know, it's no, and then the weight's to counterbalance it. So, I mean, who wouldn't like to have it? I would. I'd probably figure out a way to slug it around, but this is great. It's just a sweet spot in a lot of ways. It's a wonderful scope. The different, you can run it into f7 or f5 with those 2 adapters and get a little bit difference in resolution. So it's just a real sweet spot, I think.
So one thing that we ask people whenever we bring them on here is there anything you'd like to change about your setup? I know you said we're talking about maybe what an overhaul would look like, but is there anything that you're looking to do with your setup to improve it, or anything you'd like to see different about it?
Well, there's always stuff going on a little bit, but in general, the big picture, I'm pretty happy. And a quick project coming up is I'm going to reduce the top plate on this to somewhat shorter. This is awfully long, and it doesn't fit in any of my standard carrying cases. It takes up a lot of room in my truck. And so I want to try to squeeze that stuff down and maybe make the top of that a little more protected. It's just little things like that. I'm pretty happy all in all with kind of the way the setup has come together. But like I said, I've only just had this camera since late last fall, and that's only 2 outings for me so far. So yeah, I say no, but no. Everybody's always in the market business for something else, I think. So I don't know, but there's nothing I go, oh no, man, I missed the boat on that right now. So.
Very cool setup, and I like your D shield a lot.
Yeah, I hear maybe they're be able to get one of those somewhere along there. I'm not sure though.
We hope so. We met Yuri out here this week, and he was a lot of fun to talk to. So, well, we appreciate you coming on here, Alex. Do you have any other questions?
Thank you for being here. My pleasure. I enjoyed it.
All right. Well, so if anyone wants to get a hold of you, is there any way they can get a hold of you, or?
get a hold of you.
This is my dad, so so I'd be happy to put in any questions.
I have a
for
little
them.
website called Magic Shirt Astro. I don't know if you can reach me through that or not. Maybe you can. So I haven't been too prolific in posting lately, but I do have a little website out there. So take a look at that if you like.
Cool. You want to take a turn at interviewing me?
Sure. What do you want to interview on?
We can go over to the other setup right over here.
All right.
Awesome. We just saw a lot of really cool scopes and a variety of scopes. One Atlas, one, well, I should say one more moderately priced scope, and then some of the high-end stuff. It was a pretty cool presentation.
Yeah, those are always fun.
Yeah, Josh, you have any further comments on it?
No, I don't think so. You know, just if anybody ever wants to share their setups, we're always looking for more information on new setups. We love seeing them, seeing different ideas across the spectrum, whether they're tiny mobile imaging rigs or you know, things that are in big observatories out west. You know, I think that we just like kind of seeing how people set up their different gear, helps share ideas for other people, and maybe every time we see one, I think we see something that we've all missed too.
Cool. I do want to mention next week's session, we are going to be doing an imaging challenge. There's no specific challenge in the image, but what it is going to give you is the opportunity to process some really good data. Eric Coles has volunteered his Cave Nebula data, and right now it is posted in the description of next week's upcoming YouTube stream. By tomorrow, you will be able to click through on our website to get to it. I want to leave this particular video on our website overnight, so all the people overseas that are coming into daytime will get a chance to watch it. And then tomorrow I'll switch it over. So basically you would click the YouTube in the bottom right corner of the video, and that will get you to YouTube to see the video and go down to the description, and that's where the data is posted. If you had any further questions on that, just contact me, but it will become more obvious tomorrow. That said, I want to thank Josh for doing those great videos. If you're at a star party somewhere, then maybe you will come across him and you can volunteer your setup. Otherwise, I don't know. That's it. I think we'll probably end up seeing you next week. Thank you all for coming. Thanks again, Josh. And keep your eyes out for that data. It's going to be a nice one to process. Last week, we were discussing with somebody, what do I need to, how much data should I have? When is it actually good? Well, you're going to look at this stuff and you're going to say, this is good data. And it's going to be fun to process. It comes in all different flavors, RGB, H-alpha, O3, I believe S2 as well. So you will be able to process it in any color palette you like. That said, have a good night, guys. See you next week.